Resentment is a form of emotional pain that remains active long after the original event has passed. It often begins with a perceived injustice, betrayal, disappointment, disrespect, or unmet expectation. But unlike ordinary anger, resentment tends to linger. Anger may rise quickly and then fade, while resentment repeatedly returns to the same emotional wound. A person may replay what happened, remember what was said, imagine how things should have been different, and silently accumulate evidence that they were treated unfairly. At its core, resentment often contains more than anger. It can include sadness, humiliation, helplessness, disappointment, envy, and the feeling of having been taken for granted. Sometimes resentment develops because a person never felt able to express what they truly needed. They stayed silent to avoid conflict, repeatedly forgave without addressing the underlying problem, or continued giving while secretly expecting recognition or reciprocity. When those expectations remain unmet, emotional debt begins accumulating. The person may appear calm on the surface while internally keeping a detailed record of every disappointment. This is why resentment can be particularly difficult to recognize. It does not always look like open hostility. It can appear as emotional distance, sarcasm, coldness, irritability, withdrawal, or a sudden lack of enthusiasm towards someone who was once important. The person may insist that everything is fine while their behavior quietly communicates the opposite. Resentment can also grow when someone repeatedly violates their own boundaries, saying yes when they mean no, tolerating disrespect, constantly rescuing others, or suppressing their needs can create anger that eventually gets directed toward the very people they allowed too much access to. The deeper psychology of resentment involves a struggle between what happened and what the person believes should have happened. The mind repeatedly compares reality with an imagined alternative, and every comparison can reopen the wound. This can create a psychological attachment to the past because resentment keeps the person emotionally connected to the person or event that hurt them. The desire for acknowledgement can become particularly powerful. A person may feel that they cannot move forward until the other person admits what they did, apologizes sincerely, or finally understands the damage they caused. But waiting for someone else to provide closure can keep emotional freedom outside your control. Releasing resentment does not mean declaring that the original behavior was acceptable. It means refusing to let the event permanently control your emotional life. Sometimes healing requires expressing anger honestly, establishing boundaries, accepting that certain people may never take responsibility, and grieving the relationship or expectation that was lost. It also requires recognizing where self-betrayal may have contributed to the pattern, not as a way of blaming yourself, but as a way of reclaiming your power. You cannot change what someone did, but you can change how much access that event continues to have to your present. Resentment often survives because the mind believes that holding on to anger preserves justice. Yet carrying the pain does not necessarily punish the person who caused it. It simply keeps the wound emotionally active. Real healing begins when accountability and personal freedom become separate goals. Someone else may never understand your pain, but you can still understand it. Someone else may never apologize, but you can still establish boundaries. Someone else may have taken something from your past, but they do not have to take your future as well. Resentment loses its power when the past becomes something you remember rather than something you continue to relive.